Welcome to the Photo Banter podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's podcast, I speak with photographic agent John Kenney. John is the co-founder of John Times Ed, a firm representing commercial photographers and directors. In this interview, I speak to John about how he discovered photography, studying at the Parsons School of Design, and also how he first got into representing commercial photographers. I also speak to John about what he looks for when bringing on a new photographer to their roster, as well as what advice he would have for photographers looking to pursue a career in commercial photography. John is someone who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in the photo industry, so I was excited to get a chance to speak with him. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks so much for listening. All right, well, I now welcome on John Kenney. Long time coming, man. Excited to talk to you, John. But I guess, man, how's life, dude? I've been asking everybody. It's been a crazy year, but how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and Alice, I just want to say I'm honored to be here on Photo Banter. I've been looking at this and listening to all these great podcasts of phenomenally amazing people, so I'm honored to be here with you.
Oh, thank you.
And it is a crazy time. You know, sometimes you're not even sure what day it is. It seems, and I know you and I have tried to connect a couple times, and
Yep.
time zones and what day is it, working from home and who's from where,
man.
and different Zoom meetings and geez, how do I look? Am I okay here?
Yeah.
It is kind of a challenge, but I think there's a lot of positive things coming out of it, and I really do I try to focus on what's positive,
That's all you can do, man.
Right.
That's a good way to look at it. You feel like, I mean, you have an interesting job because we'll get into it more, but like being like an agent or rep or whatever you want to call it, like you guys represent like 9 photographers. I mean, that's got to be now more than ever, like dealing with like this industry has got to be even tougher because you're dealing with 9 people, like stressing out, like how are you going to make a living? How am I going to get my work out there? I guess like how is this kind of the internal with your guys' business? Is kind of talking to everybody on your roster and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah. It's I think it's always been kind of the crazy bus. I feel like I'm driving a crazy bus. Yeah. And I mean
sure.
a nice way.
Yeah.
Gary Glad got the crazy bus, and the driver's like like looking back, like oh my god, and because everybody's got a different view of something. Everybody wants to do this, wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ed and I always say it's hard to get everybody to agree and let's go in this certain direction, But it's been I think everybody's been really understanding of where it's at. Work is slow and tough.
Yep.
Budgets are tight.
Mm-hmm.
People, we understand that. A lot of people are working on personal projects and keeping their passion. I think that's what's really critical.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go, hey, what's going on? You got to keep working is whether the job's there or not.
Yep.
It's work. I mean, if you love the work you do, you'll do it,
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I think from that comes a lot of personal projects. I know Gary's working on some, Dan's working on a few. I mean, people are really, everyone's in a good spirit. Believe I'm, that's a good thing.
That's good. Yeah, I saw on your guys' website, you guys have a whole little section now, just like remote work, just like projects people have been doing like during COVID and stuff like that. How's the kind of reaction been with like clients and stuff? Just kind of like, I guess, showcasing that stuff because it's like I've seen a lot of photographers kind of doing that. Like some photographers, they'll even like put. My friend did it on his website. He kind of showcased like where he lives in the area, like he had the pictures of his kids and his pets and stuff, and he kind of made this whole PDF of like here's like stuff I can create within my little zone. I don't have to travel anywhere, and it was just kind of interesting to see how people are approaching it because I noticed you guys had a little section on your site now too.
Yeah, I think just to show that first of all, we like putting new work out just to say that hey, we're active and things are happening and we're creative and passionate and the showing off some of the possibilities how to work in a remote situation. for one, Dan Esbar, built the whole thing in his backyard.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you can do
Mm-hmm.
when you're forced to have to adapt and figure things out.
Yeah.
And we've been it's been working out great. We did a big shoot with Bill Cahill recently, motion and still shoot in Los Angeles, and we had everybody had to have a COVID monitor there, and everything had to be everyone's tested to temperatures and distance to things, and it's we've been working it out, and it wasn't like the Notre Dame Clemson game,
Yeah.
crunched together,
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I guess to go back, like I was just kind of curious, like where you grew up and like how do you kind of initially get into the photography world? Like did you kind of shoot photos yourself, or what was kind of your journey within this business, I guess?
Thanks for asking. It's I've been in business a long time, so it's I've seen a lot of changes, and I grew up at Long Island High School, and I went to Hobart William Smith College, and I started a biochemistry major, and it was kind of tough being in those chemistry labs and looking out the window. Everybody's having a great time and all this, and I found this. And I read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in a English class.
Yeah.
And I said, "Wow, that's great! I gotta see more of that stuff." So
yeah.
I ended up taking some. I moved into writing, got a degree in writing, and my senior year I kind of got into sculpture and I liked welding and doing all that stuff. So, but then I found out you can't really move around with your arc welder and all your welding equipment.
Yeah, it's getting pretty tough.
Yeah. So I found a camera. The camera's kind of. I went to Willoughby's in New York and way back when, and bought my Nikon F2.
Yeah, that's on the classic,
my two lenses, and I went to Parsons School of Design after that.
Okay, so you kind of switched over to Parsons, and how's that kind of experience going to Parsons, like legendary school, obviously? Once you kind of got there, like what kind of stuff were you photographing, I guess?
It was neat. I studied with George Tice, and that's who he's one of my heroes, and 8x10, reality. I mean, shooting a lot of New Jersey and urban landscape, and I loved that. I thought his sense of what the real photograph is, and this is no retouching. Everything he did was selenium toning, or I remember in one of the classes he put up the same image on the wall, 16 of the same images. And he said, "Okay, which one is perfect?" And they all look perfect. I'm going to myself, "Oh my God, which one is?" And he said, "Perfect. You can't make it perfect. It's and tones, obviously, range of light." But anyway, what happened was I had to do darkroom assignments, and I found out a friend of mine had opened a studio in New York, the still life show. He was from RIT. And 8x10 still life, and wow. And so I went to his place, and he had a apartment studio. I mean, it's like they were all sleeping on the floor, and it was like this is early '80s, and he had done a couple of liquor ads at the time, and I'd never seen an 8x10 chrome before, and I was like, wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
I've never seen one now. That sounds pretty. I've seen 4x5, but never 8x10. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I just said that, and he had a great dark room, so I worked in the dark room and at night, and come out and I'd show him some pictures I did, and he goes, "Hey man, that's cool. It'd be great if you shot at 810." And then I was like, ah. Oh. So anyway, we got to be great friends, and he said, "I'm going to open a studio on 32nd Street, and want to join me? Let's be partners." And I said, "Geez, well, what am I going to do?" And he said, "Well, yeah, you're good with people, and you're smart and all that stuff, and you go get the work, and I'll shoot it." and that's how it started, actually, because so we had on 32nd Street, we had a big space there, and And we put a book portfolio together of 8x10 chromes and
wow.
Laminated the name on the side of the portfolio case.
Damn. So when you got a portfolio of chromes, then like you basically would bring that around to like agencies and stuff, and
Yeah.
they would just kind of look at it like on a light table, pretty much.
Yeah, it was like I felt like I wore a tie and suit, the suit, whole thing with my black case and 8x10 chromes in it, and they'd hold them up to the window, a lot of the art directors,
Yeah.
and it was kind of cool because you'd call and you would speak to an art director.
Mm-hmm.
They invite you. Okay, yeah, you could come on up. I'll take a look, and then they'd hand you a layout and say, here, let's shoot these bottle of Puerto Rican rum.
Damn.
And that's how it kind of started. And it was actually art buyers were just beginning to appear in the agencies at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And 8x10 still life was king in New York in those days.
So it's kind of like back then, like when you're kind of working that studio, it was primarily this kind of still life stuff. This pretty much.
That's exactly still life. It's like Michael Pruzan and Steve Bronstein, and Big City was happening at the time, and Stockland Martel was one of the early agents representing firms, and Michael O'Neill, and it was you'd walk through the photo district in Union Square and night when I was at Parsons, and I'd look up and you'd see the strobes blasting from the different studios, and you go, oh, that's Michael O'Neill's studio. Look at the light coming out, he's working late, and that was kind of cool. It was a nice energy then.
Like, did you kind of ever, like, were you kind of still shooting photos on your own at that point, or did you kind of always just kind of jump into that kind of marketing role from the get-go, or did you kind of ever have like dreams of shooting yourself commercially or anything like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I got to be honest about everything. I loved shooting my own work, and I couldn't stand, this is my rep, and I was like, what's a rep?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not reptile rep.
Yeah.
I changed my feelings about that now, but back then I was having a hard time identifying myself as not being the shooter and going out and getting the work and negotiating, and we worked as a team, and that made it nice because it was exciting to see assignments come in and see them to fruition, and build relationships and then compete. It's a competition at the time.
Yeah.
Who's got you had to do a cool poster and get it out, and look what Phil Marco did. Wow, that's hey, can we get into the Black Book?
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that was like a big deal back then. Yeah, the Black Book was a big deal.
Yeah, that was the Bible of the industry at that time. And I remember we were young guys there, and we were looking at a spread in the Black Book, and it was just Phil Marco, and they had no pictures, and no contact number.
Wow.
It was like, we were going, that is cool.
How does that work though? Like that is cool, but like I wonder how that worked for them. I guess if
you didn't know, then you don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like so cool.
I respect it, man. That's pretty badass. Yeah. It's like, hey, if you like my work, you got to track me down. No, that's awesome. And I guess like, when did you kind of break off? Because I know you've been working with Ed, your partner in your business now. Like, when did you kind of decide to start that like rep firm, I guess?
Well, I've been always repping photographers, and I did join. I worked with film for a period of time there as a part of Big City Productions.
Yep.
And but I always kept I represent Steve Steigman and John Ashenhurst from Australia, and we shot some big television commercials back in the 80s here. So this is that was pretty intense, and from that, then I left that, and in 2001, Ed joined me, and I knew his dad real well, and he was just out of Loyola, and great, and just super sharp, super smart, handsome guy. And I said, hey man, let's yeah, definitely, come on, let's start working. And so he started off with me, and just progressed to where we're now. We're equal partners,
Yeah.
and he's just great. I mean, it's like, he's the young side, and I guess the older side here. But yeah,
Hey, hey,
but
that's good, man. You got the wisdom. I get like when you're at big city, like what kind of stuff like was big city like were you kind of repping photographers within them or like what did kind of big city what was kind of their business? Like what did they kind of handle, I guess?
well, this is it's interesting too, because at the time, Big City had a building on 19th of a Fifth, and then 19th on the west side, which is their film building, and they had their print building off of Fifth. And at that time, Gary Horowitz was there, and Robin Dichtenberg, and
Yeah.
myself, Arlene Johnson. We all sat in one room at one point. And that was kind of cool. And I represented my own group, but I also worked with the film side. Steinman was building his film thing, and they had 5 stages in the 19th and Fifth address.
Yeah.
So everyone had a floor there, and so that. But when they started opening the film building, I moved over there and started bringing in. I brought in a couple of directors, and we started opening that whole area.
Oh wow. So you kind of been because I know even now like you represent a bunch of photographers, but they also do directing too. Like even like I know Gary, who you represent now, he kind of does both. But you've kind of always it seems like you kind of worked in both sides of the business, still and motion work. It sounds like then I guess.
Yeah, I did, and I think that's helped me a lot now, because we just Gary just got a Clio for
Oh
an
wow,
Apple spot we did, and we're showing that off on the website. We're kind of proud of that. And
that's awesome. Congrats.
yeah, so that's kind of neat. And I guess they back at that point, the cameras didn't have that motion aspect to them,
Mhm.
and as time went on, and I mean, I remember agency, I think it was Chiat, had called me up and said, "Are any of your guys using digital?" And yeah, I said, yeah, yeah, we're playing around with it, but we do use film.
Yeah.
You know, you know. And that was kind of during that transition zone there.
That's the name of the game, though, right? Like when the client calls, it's just like, "Oh, are you doing this?" It's like, "All right, yeah, we can do it." And then as soon as you hang up that phone, it's like, "All right, now it's like we got to figure out our game plan and figure it out." And I feel like that's like almost like every job like you get pretty much, right? Like it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's just you just got to figure out, solve the problems. Like same thing with like COVID. It was just like a new set of problems. Like, all right, yeah, we can do this. And then it's just back to the drawing board and it's kind of brick by brick, pretty much.
It's interesting too, because I remember jobs that would come in, and it's mainly a still shoot, and then they said, well, we'd like to put a little video at the end of this, and if we put this on the budget, it's for the World Wide Web, and it was like, and we have about $4,000 or something, and then of course they wanted to shoot all this overhead, so the tennis player doing this, moving around. And
Yep.
it's just for the web.
Yep.
And so it's interesting because that side of things started to grow. And when the motion side became a larger element of the shoot,
Yep.
they're pretty much now it's a marriage of both, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like even like in the last couple of years, like I shoot a lot of editorial and I did a whole job for AARP like a month ago and it was strictly just for social media. It was just like it wasn't for the magazine, it wasn't for their website, literally just for their Instagram, but it was like good budget and it was just kind of interesting to see because it makes sense. It's like that's where people are looking. They're on Instagram all the time. They're on their phones and it's just yeah, it's just interesting to see kind of where the business has gone, you know?
Yeah, I remember walking through Times Square, and at one point we had 4 billboards up there. And I was like, oh, look at this one over there. Look at that one. We did that one too.
Yeah.
And now you walk through there and it's all moving.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
It's like all jumping around, It's like,
yeah, because Times Square, it's all like those like LED like monitors now. It's like, and
yeah.
yeah, you're right. And Spotify has like the big one like in the center now, and it's like always like a new musician. They'll show like the video and stuff. It's yeah, it is way different. But yeah, I guess actually one amazing story you told me when we talked the other day. I forget what happened. Like you guys were working on some campaign or something, and you had to get like a bunch of film delivered to the lab or something like that. And the bike
Yeah.
was yeah, maybe you could tell us. It was such a great story.
Yeah,
What was kind of the deal behind that?
yeah, we shot a job for Lord Federico Einstein. It was a agency way back when, and but photographer Joe Baraban, we did IBM shoot and a big shoot with a lot of casting, a lot of real people and locations that we had to go to, and I don't know how many rolls, 500 rolls. I mean, of filmed on its way to Dougal, and we call the lab up and wondering what's going on. And we don't have any film. And what do you mean you don't have any film? We sent 600 rolls of film to you. And he said, wow, nope. And so we checked with the messenger service. Back then it was like breakaway messengers, all kind of messengers, delivering things. And I guess he had gotten hit by a car. And, that's not to laugh about that.
No.
But the film ended up laying on the road. And some EMT guy threw it in the back of the ambulance, and it was sitting at I forget what hospital, but it was sitting there, and so we had to send an assistant to now to get the film. I'm gonna tell you, we were panicking.
But you guys got
hard drives then,
Yeah, you guys got it all back though, huh?
We did, and thank God. Yeah, and we had insurance for the shoot just in case, but nobody wanted to do that again.
No. Yeah, it's crazy. Like what back then, like because when you're shooting film, like 8x10 chrome, like you said, like what was kind of like the turnaround time on like a typical job? Because like nowadays, like especially with editorial, it's like they want shit like the next day, sometimes the same day. Commercial, it's like pretty quick turnaround times. But like, what do you remember back then? Like if you're shooting a campaign on 8x10 chrome, do you feel like it was still just like a quick turnaround, or was it a slower pace, or like what do you kind of remember about this, like the logistics of it, I guess?
That's interesting. We were using 810 Polaroid too at a lot of that time, and then run the chromes down to the lab, and there's always that moment of truth. Like, okay, how do they look? Okay, are they exposed right?
Yeah.
And that was always a rush. It was like, here we go. And I forget how long it took. So I think we had rush service on a lot of it, and the studio was right close. The photo district, was tight, so you could run from one place to the next, and we'd get them back late in the afternoon, or at least by the next day,
Yeah.
So,
it's always
but
quick.
we had Polaroids, and you felt like you had it, Back then you had like a million Speedotrons and
those things are tanks, man. I worked.
Remember them?
Oh yeah, dude. I had one. I worked at Hasbro, the toy company, when I got out of college, and they still had some Speedotrons. And one time, one of them exploded. I literally, I thought like a bomb went off, man. It scared the shit out of me.
Like 10 Speedotrons all hooked together, to light up this 810 chrome, and in the whole place you'd hear all the electrical buzz, the whole studio.
Anyway. Yeah, it's crazy. So I guess like by the time you and Ed kind of partnered up and started your company now, like what was kind of your guys' goal with like the type of work you guys wanted to represent? Like, is there like because I know looking at some people's reps, though, some reps only like rep like lifestyle photographers. Other people will focus on like fashion. Some people only represent like still life photographers. But I guess what was kind of you and Ed's goal with the type of work you guys wanted to represent?
That's advertising and commercial has been pretty much where we were, and not so much fashion. It's a lot of agents that would have a big group of fashion guys, and I worked with we got together early with Ripsaw with Sean McKenzie and Joe Bukowski.
Yeah.
And they were shooting out of Minneapolis at the time, and shot a lot of stuff for Fallon and Carmichael, and won a tremendous number of awards. And that was really conceptually brilliant advertising, and I love that. I thought that was just, I mean, it was very artistic. I mean, I think, and it was good budgets, and that's kind of the direction we kind of. I like the idea. I love still life, so we kept a mixture of still life and lifestyle portrait, if you want to call that, and just humor. Humor is always a huge thing that's very difficult.
Yeah.
We liked a range of work, though we weren't very heavily into fashion. You know?
Yeah. No, it's always interesting, and I guess like, how would you kind of describe? A lot of people listening to this are like photographers and whatnot. Like, how do you kind of describe your job as a rep? Like, how do you kind of explain what you do, and like, what's your kind of day to day, and like, what are kind of some of the skill sets you need to have to be a rep, you think?
I think it's about the relationship. I think it really is. It's like the getting to know each other, and we're not booking agents, so though we do book jobs. I mean, so it's a close relationship where we're a part of a team, and we're family, and we look at what the direction of the work is going, and hope be soundboards for ideas and thoughts. And hey, like Gary, I remember Gary Lance said to me one time, I'm thinking about going to Dominican Republic and shooting about baseball. What do you think? And I said, hey man, that sounds great. I could tell you feel a passion right now. Just do it.
Yeah.
And then we got it back, and they put a little book together, and we sent that off to Wyden and Kennedy, and I say, I talked to a lot of people there, and it turned into big Nike campaigns.
Yeah.
And opened a relationship that way.
No, it's interesting. And like what advice you kind of give to people, because as you know, this is a really competitive business, and it's very hard, like even just to kind of get your foot in the door at like these big agencies, like you said, like you guys work with like Wyden Kennedy and Carmichael Lynch, who have been in the game for a long time and do amazing productions. But like, what advice would you kind of give to people that are trying to get their foot in the door into commercial work? Like, what's your kind of advice, I guess?
Well, I think it's finding who you are, your style, and who you are. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's important that you can adapt to create some kind of style that people see who you are. I mean, that's you're not. It's just not a copy of a lot of things. It's you have a distinct look, if you can, and then and I think keeping it out of the box a little bit is kind of what makes you unique, right? I mean, mediocrity is always kind of So I think agencies like Wyden and Chiat and Deutsch and all them, they look for something that's obviously professional and beautiful, and but something what's different here, or what's your voice? Who are you as an artist? And I think that's what I try to do, is to keep that voice, that visual voice, if you want to call it, moving forward.
And the thing that I found is tougher, is trying to make that jump from like, shooting editorial to like working on bigger campaigns. Like obviously you work with guys like Gary who are like well established, and they have this track record of shooting these big campaigns. But like what advice do you kind of give to the person who's trying to make that jump from like editorial and like regional stuff to kind of get into that national level? Because I found that's kind of like, it's hard to kind of get over that hump, I guess.
That's a really good question. It's interesting. I've worked with Kathy Ryan a few times in the past, and she's amazing, and obviously a great, one of the greatest photo editors. And I worked with Justin Stevens and Lars Thunbjörk. I represented Lars for many years.
Yeah.
As, work as a museum of modern art now, and he assignments like that are just they're not budget. It's not about making any money. It's about wow, look at what the assignment you do is what makes you unique. There's the things that can make you unique, and I think those things in your portfolio. I think a place like wine might go, oh, that's beautiful, like that, and that could turn into work for a campaign they might be working on, So, so yeah, I think that having a mixture of editorial is great. I think it's keeps you stimulated and keeps you moving. It's different kind of location, interesting celebrity. Obviously, you can move into get your way, move along in the celebrity world that way.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I guess for you and Ed, like how do you guys kind of operate your business, being that you guys represent, I think, like 9 photographers now? Do you guys just kind of like represent, like you kind of handle like a couple of the guys and he handles a couple of the guys, or is it just kind of a mix, or how do you guys kind of handle the day to day of representing 9 people? It's a lot of personalities, which it's got to be a lot of work.
Yeah. It's we both do it equally.
Yeah.
Ed's really good with a lot of the production sides of things, and so that we help with the treatment. We'll work with it. We go over a lot of that and make sure that the treatment for a job has got soul and passion in it. So that it's not just coming out, blah 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 blah. It's coming from who you are, and I think that's really important. I mean, that someone wants to hire you because you have a certain grasp and soul. Soul is substance. So I always like that word.
Yeah.
And, so but we do it equally. I'll call somebody and chat, see how things are going, and we'll talk about some marketing. What should we do? And maybe we need to tune this up or fix this, or and of course during these times, it's harder for I think people that they can't go to an agency and present your work, and face to face is there's a lot. That's a big thing.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been talking to a lot of people about, my friends and all the people on this podcast a lot, is like you said, like most of my business that I've got over the course of my career is, like you said, just kind of pounding that pavement and talking to people and building those relationships. And now it's like, I almost feel lost at this point because, like you said, you can't go meet people in person, and it's like emails. I mean, there's only so much you can do with email. And then you can't really do mail. You can't even do print mails right now because no one's working at their offices. So it's like this weird time to like market your work, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, when I first started, you'd call up and art director directly and say, hey, listen, I'd like to show you the work we have, and I said, well, let me know when you're in the agency, and I said, okay, and I'd be in the telephone booth in the lobby of the agency. Say, hi, I happen to be in the agency. Run, get in the elevator, zoom up, and and then you come back and someone would say, hey, listen, come over here. Let me introduce you to so and so, and then that connection really that's how that began. And I then later, I've seen people bringing in the whole group and then having the portfolio review, if you will, and making sure you have some good things to eat there. So trying, but
no,
we won a lot of big campaigns from face to face.
Yeah, because they can get a sense of who you are, and I would imagine, even like with the treatments, it's good. But like in your experience, have you found that like the creative call, that's like a very important part of like getting a job, is like being able to explain your vision and what you're gonna do, and it's a real important skill in itself, right?
I mean, the directorial call is huge, I think, and I think I think a representative really needs to talk with the photographer ahead of time, and let's say, how are we doing it? Certain personalities work great on it, and there again, I'm going to call Gary Land out, and that when you get on a call with him and the creatives at the agency, it's like, he's going, hey, dude, man, that's dope. Wow, that's fantastic. Let's get into this, And I'm going to myself, oh my God, I think we have this job. I mean, we haven't even finished the creative call,
Yeah.
And that passion is great, And then there's been times too when I've been on with one of my photographers and I had to text them, say something, yeah, a little more enthusiasm, please.
Is that because you're right. Like everyone's personality is different. Like obviously Gary, he's an extroverted person, so that for him that's comfortable. Other people, they can be like amazing photographers, but it's just people's personalities are different. So in those circumstances, it's like, is that kind of where the team element comes together? You guys kind of work together, just kind of like on those calls, pretty much a little.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what helps a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, I remember a photographer that I represented said to me, well, what do you want me to do? Take acting lessons? And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
It actually probably would be good. We all this can take improv classes for creative calls. It's actually a kind of good idea, man.
Yeah. Because that energy's got to be there. It can't be like, well, what do you think of how'd you like the campaign? Well, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, and also you have to read the room too, because certain art directors are very, it's like the same thing. Like some art directors are extroverted, some are introverted, and it's like knowing how to like read the room and like how to talk to different people. And it's like, it never gets easier. I don't think it's just like you get better at it, but less nervous, I guess. But it's just kind of it's a real important skill. It's like, because at the end of the day, it's like we're photographers, but we're all salesmen. Like I feel like 99% of my job is like marketing and like sales. Like taking pictures is like 2% of it, pretty much.
You're so right, man. That's cool. That's like Gary always says. It's like, oh man, I could sell. That's sure. In a good way, in a really good way. It's like,
yeah.
But
no, it's important. And I guess for you and Ed, like when you guys decide you're gonna bring someone else onto the roster, like what is it you guys are usually looking for when you're gonna bring on a new photographer, I guess?
Boy, we do get a lot of people ask, want to see. I mean, we're at this point we have some pretty high level, A level, so they have to be A level in that sense.
Yep.
And they have to be personable, have a relationship that we feel like we're comfortable with, they're comfortable with us, and so there's not just it's not just business. It really isn't. It's a kind of what's the right word? You want to enjoy what you're doing.
Because it's like, as you guys own your own business. All those photographers you represent own their own business. So it's like, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's 365, 24 hours a day. It's like never stops. So it's like, yeah, you're right. Like if you're going to be working this closely with people for years and years, like, yeah, you got to have that like personal relationship on top of the business, I guess.
Yeah. So, and that's important. I think it really is. I mean, you don't want to say, do you develop friendships? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Can they hurt if you break up? Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what we try to be is really transparent and it's and communication as much as possible. And so I don't want to say, well, I never heard from you guys. Well, what's the story?
Yeah.
And, it's no, we're checking in quite a bit and open to say, hey, what's going on? And I think when people get things out and express them, then it clears a lot of air, and I think people can feel better.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess like on top of that, like when you do bring someone new on, I guess like what do you guys, obviously it's a relationship, it goes both ways. Like, what do you kind of expect from these photographers you kind of bring on the roster, and like what can they expect from you, I guess?
Well, I mean, we expect that they'll be passionate and and doing new work and connected. And our part is, I mean, is we're hardworking. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, we're we let them know what's going on, where we've been, how we've been, what's who we're seeing, and not that they're asking us.
Yeah.
We like to tell people what's going on. Hey, we're heading here. This is got some thoughts on that, or would you like to go too? Or
Yeah.
I mean, I know some of the agents take the photographers along with them a lot of times, and I have done that in occasions, but sometimes it's a little hard because it's like somebody is you want to give them all the attention, and yet there's other other.
Yeah, because because you have 9 guys. Yeah, you don't want to turn the whole meeting into one person's work.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah,
Exactly.
no, it
And
makes sense.
and then to bring them all would be like oh my God, it'd be wild, It'd be
Yeah,
kind of fun, but it'd be
yeah, it'd
I
be a
don't think
lot.
we get anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, no, that makes sense. And like, how did, because I know you guys have repped with Gary Land for years, who, I was lucky enough to assist him a little bit when I got out of college, and have like stayed in contact with him over the years. Like, how did you guys kind of start working with Gary? How did you guys kind of meet and start working together?
That's a really funny story. I got to
Yeah.
tell you, that's actually one of the great stories I like to tell. And I was at Postis in the city and talking to this producer. We're having a drink and said, "Oh, I know this guy. He's pretty good. He works for Reebok."
Yeah.
And he's he shoots he did this I Am What I Am campaign for them direct, and he's a staff guy there. And I said, "Oh, well, I would like to see his work," and so she said, "Okay, let me check out." And so I called Gary up and says, "Hey man, hey, yeah, oh, that's cool. Yeah, sure, man, that's cool. I'll send you a book." And so he did, and I went, "Wow, this is great." He had like 50 Cent in there, and
Yeah.
Allen Iverson, and all these like rap dudes, and I said, and they were really funky, cool stuff, And I said, "This is great. Oh wow, neat." And I was talking with I forget now, the photo editor of Running Magazine, Runner's World,
Yep.
and they had an assignment to shoot uh, what's his name?
Armstrong.
Yeah, Lance Armstrong. Excuse me. And we're going to shoot him in Texas, and they wanted to know, "Hey John, who do you recommend for this?" And I said, "Well, there's this guy I know, Gary Land. He'd be awesome. I think he'd really like this, And so I called Gary up and said, "Hey, do you think you could go to Austin, Texas, and shoot Lance Armstrong for Runner's World?" And he said, "Oh, wow, that'd be great, dude. I'd love to do that."
Yeah.
So he got clearance, that he could go out and do some shoots on his own and stuff, kind of thing. So he flies down there, and Lance comes in, rides his bike there, and so we do. Gary is at that time doing all these kind of cool retouching, the kind of.
Yeah, he was doing like I think like a ton of like HDR stuff back then.
Exactly. Right. And so he put it behind the Alamo and all kind of stuff, and did a lot of really, really cool shots. And so so that was very successful shoot. And I'm in Minneapolis in the airport coming back, and I walk into to get a magazine, and I see all the way across Runner's World, right? And it's Lance Armstrong cover.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Land, photographed by Gary Land, and Lance is wearing a big Nike swish on his shirt, and it's like, here's the Reebok photographer shooting Lance Armstrong, and so I get a call later from Gary. Said, "Hey, dude, I'm no longer working at Reebok. I have 4 kids.
You gotta find me some work.
We gotta figure this thing out."
Yeah.
And that was a big. Ed and I drove up to Boston and had meet with him and his wife, and It was great. I mean, that started his. I think he really just took off because I think he was exploding and ready to go beyond where he was. And of course, now he works at Reebok, and never was there a loss of love.
No.
In a way, it just was a it was a strange moment,
Yeah, he's a force, man. The thing I always kind of respect about him is like maybe people don't realize it is like that dude can do every aspect of the job. Like I don't think he retouches that much anymore, but like when I first got out of school, he was still doing a lot of his own retouching, and even on those big campaigns, and he knows how to utilize the retouching. He can produce the job, he can shoot the job, he can sell the job. Like that, I think more than anything I learned from that guy is like he he doesn't have to rely on anybody if he doesn't need to. Like he knows every aspect of the job, you know.
Yeah, that's we did some big jobs for very little money,
Yep.
and he put a lot of that together himself,
Yeah.
And that's cool. I mean, we work with Dan Escobar out of San Francisco, and
Yep.
he does a lot of his own stuff too, and I've been with him quite a few years. And Kate Woodman's been new with us, and she's does a lot of amazing Photoshop and composition work too, and storytelling. Storytelling seems to be a big thing these days.
Yeah.
The environmental portrait with with composition.
Yep. And one aspect of the business is like obviously as a photographer you're trying to get your name out there, you want to work with these big agencies, but then you also don't want to like give your stuff away for free. Like how do you kind of navigate that? Like because I've had plenty of instances where like agencies were like, hey, if you kind of help us out with this, we'll think of you in the future, and things like that. And like how do you kind of just navigate the business aspect of like knowing when to say yes, when to say no, and all of that? Because obviously as an artist you're trying to make money, but you're still trying to get your name out there, so it's like this weird like it's a tough thing, you know.
Well, that's a big question. I mean, I remember years ago I did a talk for the APA on what's your bottom line,
Yeah.
and a lot of that was coming out of how do you do usages at that time? There's there was a million ways of doing usage: 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, unlimited. But what's a buyout? There's. I remember an agent did a buyout at $186,000. I don't know why she came up with that number, but it had time capsule and coffee mugs, and the word buyout doesn't really work. So, what's a usage on something that's and we see a lot of the usage being pushed away these days. I mean, it's
they just want to own everything.
They want to own everything. Well, it's it's now there's the digital world. How do you define the print magazine out of home?
Yep.
I don't know if I'm answering this correctly, but I think it comes down to really a judgment of saying that if it's a lot of times if they ask for a day rate, I say I don't have a day rate.
Yeah.
I have to look at the job and see what it entails, and really look at the value of the job too. The job doesn't always necessarily it's not all about money. It's about, is this job good for us? Does it move us in a direction we like?
Yeah.
Is it something we'd showcase? Is the agency creatives really great? We really should work with these people, and as long as the agency or whoever's assigning is transparent and open with you.
Yeah.
I could be transparent with a bid. So let's see. If there's something in this bid you don't like, let's go line to line.
Yeah.
And then establishing the fee. Then there's what is your value? I mean, you see. I mean, not going to give it away.
Yeah.
And there's going to establish a certain value. So I mean, we're not unionized, so we don't. We're I do think that we have a standard though.
Definitely. Yeah, because you don't want to undercut yourself and be the cheap guy, because then they're always
No,
just gonna view you as like, as soon as you, whatever your first bid is with a client, like it rarely goes up. Like they just, it seems like they'll just put you in a category like, oh, you're okay. This is how much you charge, and it's hard to get up to that. Once you, if you go low, it's hard to get back up the ladder. It seems like a little bit, you know.
a- absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes, I've done some jobs in the past where this is we have 20 ads to do. We only have this much money, and
Yeah.
um, and then there was like sidebar shots where they didn't want to buy the usage up front, and later it became this huge job. I mean, we made so much money on it.
Yeah.
They upgraded these sidebar shots to ads, and all of a sudden, that was a good smart move.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's not all about money. I think it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like a feel, because it's like if you can build a new relationship with like a good agency where you see potential, then it's like, all right, yeah, all right, I'll help them out, and you hope that they'll throw
Right.
something your way, and that's yeah, that's it's yeah,
As
it's a
long as it feels honest, if it feels like, and I think that comes from everything's relationship,
yeah,
and I think that's the agency, turns to someone like Ed and myself, and they're handing over their job to us, so I'm kind of responsible for the agency in that sense, because this is a huge client of theirs, and
yep,
a budget, and I need to handle that correctly,
yep.
and make sure the artist we represent does the right job and things,
Yeah, no,
So
definitely. And in your experience in the years of doing this and representing all types of different photographers, like what in your mind you think like separates the guys who are more successful than the others? Does it just come down to a personality thing? Is it just that they're shooting more work and personal projects, or like what do you kind of think sets someone apart like from the pack, I guess?
I think that the finished product is, you know,
Yep.
that's the ultimate. I mean, when you deliver the film
Yep.
and you go, I had an art director say to me, your photographer, uh, um, when I gave him the layout, he got what was in my head,
Yeah.
not what was on the paper.
Hmm.
And that was beyond. So in other words, the final product is really it. And I think personalities get you there, and it helps you through through the job. I mean, I think though, if you don't have the greatest personality and you do beautiful, beautiful work, that works.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
I think it's. I don't think being, the days of the being the prima donna is not so cool.
Hell no. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was it. There was a time for people that were like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. From talking to so many photographers, yeah, you hear these stories, and back in the day, it's like I was like, man, I don't know how you stayed in business. It's like you
I
can't.
could tell you some stories, but I won't.
Yeah, I get it, man. I've heard of, man. It's brutal. Um, I guess like, uh, what do you think photographers need to do now to like stay in the game? Like, obviously, it's more competitive than ever because with digital, the bar to entry to photographer is a lot lower. Like anybody can pick up photographer and learn it, and it's harder to do. But like, what kind of skills do you think like photographers need to have now to set themselves apart? Like, do you think everyone needs to be doing motion work at this point if you want to work commercially, or like what do you think of the skills you think a photographer should have now just to kind of maintain in this competitive environment?
Tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the heavy commercial areas, a mixture of motion and stills is almost necessary.
Yep.
But I think the artist still comes through.
Yeah.
And I think a true artist that's come with a style or something that um, that can express that and will be seen and noticed. And I think I still love print. I think print's beautiful. I like still life.
Yeah.
I love the art of photography. So
Yeah.
I still or motion, and but yes, the motion component is big,
Yeah.
and learning that phase of things and putting that into your work is you know is a big piece.
Yeah, definitely. You can any more like skill sets you have, and this can you're a problem solver, and it's like an agency can come to you and you can solve more problems that can work to your advantage pretty much. Um, but I guess like what kind of excites you? Like you've been working this business for so long. What kind of keeps you excited about it? What kind of keeps you keeping to work in this business, man? Because it just seems like it gets more and more competitive the years that go by.
It does, and I guess there's a lot more agents now in the business than
Yeah, yeah,
I was looking at in the photo editor, and I was looking at the list of reps. I was going, oh my god,
yeah. There's a lot.
who are all these people? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're great people and all, and it's just that when I started, there weren't that many, and so yeah, I still love the job. I still love when something comes in, and it's like, wow, look at this project, wow,
Yeah,
and it's fun to call up and say, hey guys, hey, check this out, this is cool,
yeah,
and that's the fun part of it, I think, and when we did that Apple commercials, shot an iPhone,
yeah,
that was fun.
yeah.
That was like, this is exciting. It's interesting. I like it when photographer or director doesn't even ask what the fee is. Whatever.
They're so excited to work on it. You're like, all right, yeah,
Yeah, oh no, this is cool. Wow, I love this. Let's do this.
yeah.
That's the kind of passion I think is really great. Yeah.
Yeah, because those jobs are few and far between where it's like where your artistic and commercial meet at the same point. Like it's like you don't come every day or every year. So it's like when you finally get one, it's like, all right, something it's this exciting. I know that feeling.
Yeah, there used to be days, yeah, where we'd be at 4 holds on a week,
Yeah.
and now it's like, okay,
Yeah. It's
we
tough,
get
man.
4 calls.
Yeah, yeah. And then reading on your website, I know it seems you still actively shoot photos yourself, and I think it said in your description, it said you're hoping to work on a book of some of your own work. It said on your website.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get back into it more, and I'm actually a new member of the board of the Colorado Photo Art Center.
Oh wow.
Member, and that's been a kind of an interesting challenge because it's a fine art, and keeping working as a board member for a nonprofit here during COVID is difficult,
Yeah.
because the arts are theater and music venues and all are all shut down, and it's hard and sad, trying to get grants and so it's not just photographers in the commercial world, it's artists all around
Yeah.
are really like, woo, what do we do,
Yeah, man, it's
I
tough.
hope I don't I don't know what the answer is going forward,
Yep.
other than be positive,
Yeah.
work on personal work, and keep images, keep something going out so that people know you're alive and well, in that sense.
Definitely. What kind of stuff do you like photographing for your own work?
I do a lot of urban landscape kind of things. I mean, I see the photograph as a poem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a poem, and a poem that takes you someplace. And so I've been shooting like, and more in the style maybe of George Stice. I mean,
Okay.
that's kind of like what I like. Though I'll shoot landscape in the forest, and I'll shoot an intersection that's looks kind of, kind of tough.
Yeah, you live in an interesting part of the country where you can just drive a couple hours and you're just in like all different types of landscapes and stuff. Like it's an amazing place, like being bordered with like New Mexico and all Arizona. I think borders there. It's like that whole little southwest kind of region is a pretty amazing place for any photographer.
And it's kind of neat. Not only is it the mountains nearby and beautiful, but there's this seedy Colfax Avenue.
Yeah,
Colfax is like, that was like back in, I guess, the 50s or something, one of the main thoroughfares through, and it's full of like like rundown motels and used car dealers that like, no credit check.
Some real Robert Frank. It's like some real Robert Frank imagery right there.
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, I drive up and down it all the time. Think I got to stop and find the right light and start shooting some of this before it's gone. I mean, it's like, but it's neon signs that are still some of them working, and so I kind of like some of that stuff.
Yeah, pretty soon it's all this going to be Targets and Chipotles.
I know. I'm telling you. And
it's brutal, man.
There's no character. Where's Charles Bukowski? Is he no longer walking the
man. We just need another Amazon fulfillment center, I guess. That's all.
I know.
But anyways, John, man, I guess like to wrap up, like what's next for you, man? I guess you kind of mentioned a little bit, but like what's kind of got you excited in this weird year, and like I guess what's next for you and everything in your world, I guess.
I guess hopeful. I'm glad Biden won in that sense. I think we need a change. Obviously, this my son came out to Denver and last March for my birthday, and he ended up staying for 77 days straight.
Wow.
He works at McCann Erickson, is a account executive there, and
that's awesome.
Then he went back, and it's wow, what a different world it is. And I guess everyone's probably saying that.
Yeah.
But I hope the vaccine is something that's we can look towards as a and I'm really, and going back to the normal. I don't know what was the normal. You remember?
Yeah. I want to just get back. I just miss going to the movie theater, man. That's the only thing I miss, man. I'm like,
yeah, no kidding.
That's like the one thing. Other than that, my life hasn't really. I'm like a solitary person to begin with, but other than that, it's like, that's the one thing I miss, man.
Yeah, it's like, wow. So, it'd be nice to get back to some. I'd like to make sure to see some of the restaurants and things that survive.
Definitely.
And it'd be to be back shooting again, where we don't have to have, we've learned a lot being in our own personal heads, and I think hopefully we learned a lot of stuff during this period of time.
Yeah.
And that we start, and when this virus will go away.
Yeah.
I mean, it will at some point.
Yep.
We look at the world in a different way, and a positive. Hopefully, we look at the environment a little bit here, because, I mean, I was watching this David Attenborough stuff and things. It's going to myself.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. We're on the edge. This needs to be done now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see Jimmy Chin and all these guys doing a lot of stuff. I mean, hats off to we need to do something.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well,
so, I mean, maybe we should do more public service or something. The homeless is a struggle. I see them all over the place.
Yeah.
If I don't know, maybe we can focus on doing some more PSAs, public service.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important, and as artists, we have a lot of power. We can convey these messages, and I like the sentiment, man. It definitely got me thinking more, and I appreciate it. And but yeah, John, it was a real pleasure talking to you, man. And I guess for anybody listening, if they want to check out more of your guys' work, they can just go to your website, which I believe is johnxed.com, right?
Yeah, John. The X is used to be John. Kind of interesting. John Kenney was what it was, and how I came up with that name was I was looking through some old vinyl, and I pulled out this record, Johnny Winter's and. Wow, that's so cool, And I thought, oh, wait a second, I like that.
Perfect.
And then of course the new concept is at the X. So we is that super hip? I don't know. We thought it might try that as a different kind of graphic,
I like it, man. Well, I'll link it and people go check it out. But thanks so much, John.
Alex, you're awesome, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity. And I feel really honored to be with the guests you've had on here. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it.
So there you have it. That was the John Kenney interview.
Just want to thank John so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was a real pleasure talking to him about his journey with photography and everything he's done working as an agent and everything else he's done within photography. Really appreciate it. Definitely go check out John's website. Like I said, his company's name is John Times Ed. So if you just go to johntimesed.com, you can go check out some of the photographers and commercial directors that they represent. A lot of amazing work up on there. I'll put the link in the description, but definitely go check that out. And as always, I'll be having weekly podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as the Photo Banter YouTube page. So definitely go check us out on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, thanks so much for listening and take care.